Right. Now that I remember to unmute my mic this time, I caught it really quickly and thankfully. This is why I look at the audio waveform visualizer. That and because of that HFY video where midway through there was an atrocious audio error that I might have been able to catch if I had been watching this. Saints alive. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Like I had predicted in the Heartless video, we're here to continue on my talk on ecosystems. Um, or better yet, world building. I realized the last video was less useful than I had hoped. Again, I listened to these back after the fact, so that helped me realize. Um, when I say that, I mean it was such a broad thing that it was foolish of me to try and tackle it in just the one video. So instead, we are here to tackle it in several video. Also figured out more how OBS works. It won't matter this video. It's just like I figured out how it works a bit more, so that's kind of cool. One of my videos, as I'm looking at my things right now, is at 69 views. Nice. You get it, guys? That's the funny number. By the way, I'm trying to work on putting more things in playlists. I got one already up called Bangers. This is where all the ones I think are the best are gonna go. So you can I don't know, filter through them if you want just what in my opinion, is the distilled form of my content, i.e., only my most autistic of rants. So, fun fact, if you don't know, YouTube is stupid, and it wants to. I don't give a damn about Fallout 4. Why is. Um, so, YouTube is stupid and wants to integrate AI more with its content because, I don't know, AI is the way of the future or something. Because of my two videos where I have autism in the titles, or autistic and stuff like that, there is a section of your channel where it's like channel content, right? Manage videos, and then you go to inspiration, and it's like this hub of like AI stuff to inspire you for your next video. I mostly just look at it as a laugh and to screenshot things that are fucking hilarious. Well, recently it's been right now rambling about the history of gaming from an autistic perspective and the complexity to building a society in Fallout 4. It's not fucking complex at all. How autistic brains perceive food in fantasy stories. That is literally just I already made that technically. And then it's telling me to play Mechanicus again, which I was gonna do anyway, but now I feel like I shouldn't because it fucking told me to. But that's like when you get up and go wash the dishes, but your mom says wash the dishes, now you don't want to do it. Anyway, so I decided to continue on with talking about world building, and I'm going to take parts of what I said in that video, and I'm going to focus on specific ones. In this case, it is going to be ecosystems. Next one might be cultures. I don't know yet, but we're here to do ecosystems. Why? Because I think that fleshing out, while I'm remembering, I should quickly go and turn off notifications for Discord. I'm not getting pinged or anything. It's just like I don't want too many obtrusive pings. Especially because when I review them, I will definitely get fooled. Because my laptop's been weird. It doesn't want to send me any banner notifications for literally just Discord. I don't know how to fix it. I went through my settings, nothing is turned off. And it's been really pissing me off. But we're going to focus on ecosystems for now. To fix banner notifications. Hold on. Just going to look that up and use that later. Uh, Try clearing Discord's cache. I mean, sure, I guess. I'll do that later, though. So, we're going to focus on ecosystems first because I think that's the one I can talk about the most, and it's like my trial run into the rest of the things by trying to hit the ground running and all that. Why do I like focusing on ecosystems? Well, generally speaking, it's just because I like thinking of fun, unique plants and animals and biomes, I guess. Not like biomes, right? I'm not gonna make a new biome if you can believe it. It's just like a new environment to play around in, like a sandbox. I'm tired again. I woke up at 4 today. I had like a 2 hour nap, but that was it. So, what should we focus on? Like my recent stuff, again, I gotta thank, no, I'm not gonna name you. But you know who you are. Thank you for recommending me to have like a little checklist. It has actually really been helpful. I hope you're still watching my stuff. Just 'cause I don't know, it's cool to know like, oh hey, that's a guy that watches my stuff. And then maybe it's like, oh cool. It's like inspiring, I guess. Anyway, did I get more bookmarks on my fic? No, it doesn't look like it. It's like that number feels weird. Hold on, I'm yawning. I'm over it. Anyway, so because I like playing around with these like unique plants and animals and different sort of settings and ecosystems and things like that, I'm gonna reach over and grab my bottle of water as my mouth is already feeling very dry as I had kinda recently-ish just got off of recording Heartless, so my throat's a bit shot. Not too badly though, we can still do this tonight. 2 videos, 1 night, damn. Anyway, what should we start with? Well, I think we should start with the easy and the obvious inspiration. So keep in mind, also I'm going to do that thing I mentioned ages ago where I'm going to highlight the one I'm talking about so I remember the one I'm on. Aren't I so smart? Don't acknowledge that. Put that in the corner so I can easily see it. Okay, so tackling first inspiration. As I mentioned before, inspiration versus plagiarism. Keep in mind if you consciously know why you're writing something, like you saw someone else's post and thought, or not, or like post, or like their art or their fic, or like a book you just picked up, and you're like, oh, I think this is very cool, and I want to work with ideas I've just recently osmosised. Remember to credit those ideas. We gain nothing by stifling the ability for others to look at things. Um, and in fact, I recommend doing the opposite. That's literally why I was autistically rambling about SCP in the way I like enjoying it, i.e., being an on-site fan, because I want to spread around my love for the series and the way I like participating in it, because I believe that's the best way to participate in it. And I thoroughly thoroughly showed my points why. I tried to anyway. Um, so keep in mind what is inspiring you, especially if especially if it's a recent thing, and credit them. Be sure to at every turn let your viewers and audience understand not that you are unoriginal or whatever might be floating around your brain, but that you are inspired by a great many deal of things. Here are some things. If you enjoy this part of my work, you may enjoy this. If you enjoy an aspect I've played around with, you may enjoy where I got it from. If you enjoy this aesthetic, you may enjoy its genre, etc. That's why we have such. That's why we try to have such in-depth like tags, like tagging systems, and why we have like the genre conventions in the first place is to make the ability for your audience or the audience to find and pick out the things they like enjoying engaging with a lot simpler and easier. So always keep in mind your inspiration. Always be sure to mark down what has inspired you and where to easily access it. And don't never forget this important part as I take a sip of water. It's never wrong to be inspired, right? It's never, don't think of it like, oh, I have this media in my head and now I can't think of any of my original ideas. No, instead think of it like, oh, I have this media in my head and now I have like fun ideas of what to play around with. If you get what I'm trying to um, express upon you. Because genuinely speaking, genuinely air quotes, I mean like what is this? As genuine as I can make it. I don't want to buy fucking app credit. Weird. I forgot what I was saying. Um, so I will move on. I already lost my own train of thought so early. Is this early onset dementia, chat? You're chat now. Alright, I'm gonna stop calling you chat. So, what should we move on to next? Let's start with, this is not the most in-depth thing I thought it was going to be, looking at what little points I have already. Let's start with keystone species, and then highlight so I know where I am. So, your world's going to need somewhere to start. You may be thinking. So, first of all, I personally am not big on starting with tectonic plates or map work or anything of the sort. It's not my sort of thing. I let ships fall as they may in that regard. If you like it, you may absolutely go ahead and do that yourself, though keep in mind you are writing fiction, I assume, and therefore are not beholden to the rules of reality word for word. You may ignore or embolden or hyperbolize certain aspects as you will. And in fact, I recommend you do so because to strictly adhere to the laws of reality is often very boring for your stories. So if you would like a super awesome island that looks like a cool ass fucking dragon that has really big T-Rexes that eat each other all the time, you can. If you don't like that, you don't have to. But start where you want to start. I'm going to start with keystone species because this is kind of how I function in general. It's either keystone species or the place's gimmick. So I'll talk about biomes next, adaptations maybe. So what is a keystone species? It's a term in real science, like ecological studies, that specifies specific species, be they plant, animal, microbial, or fungi, as not superior but more important in an ecosystem compared to other ones. They are wardens of sorts to keeping the home environment safe. Uh, what do I mean by this? Your main producers, essentially, as well as your main prey animal, and then as well as your main predator animal. Of course, this goes beyond. So, like an apex predator could be considered here. Maybe like the most abundant sort of scraggly brush in your desert can be considered here. Or like some sort of cactus would be a keystone species because it is the sort of plant that most herbivores will eat. And then next to that are like voles or something because they're the primary herbivore that like your snakes and your birds are going to eat. But the point I'm trying to make is what are the species that your biome, ecosystem, etc. hinges upon. For example, it could be a specific type of tuber that that germinates within a month and propagates up to 10 instances, right? For like uh, what is the word I'm even looking for? Sprouts, I guess. I don't know. When potatoes like clone themselves or whatever. I know it's not cloning, but like it's what how they spread root vegetables and all that. Say your key, say fuck. It is this sort of root that is the hinge of your ecosystem. Due to its fast-growing nature and high replicative abilities, it is what most herbivores in your world are going to eat. As such, they've adapted it to take advantage of this abundant source of fatty proteins, not fatty protein, of these abundant source of carbohydrates, because starch isn't fat. It's just like it is this abundant source of carbohydrates. As such, they have either adapted for tusks to dig in the dirt, or specialized toes to wrench them from the ground, or I don't know, like a beak almost to like shove away the dirt near the little grass tuft and pluck it from the ground and eat it that way. And then say like your main prey could be, I don't fucking know, in this case like moles, for some reason, who are more likely to encounter the subterranean route, right? And as such, your main predator would be something like a badger that would go down and chase them. That's like a pretty basic food chain. Now let's move out and make a food web. Firstly, what other plants would exist? Obviously grasses and ferns, and so much moss, genuinely so much moss and fern. They are I don't think they're called pioneer species, but I'll call them pioneer species. They're the plants that grow first due to their low nutrient cost and ease of growth. You throw like a few nutrients and a good amount of sun and a little bit of moisture in there, and they will grow where the fuck they want. Like dandelions are vicious little things. Moss and um, lichen and ferns grow wherever the fuck they want to. Right, so those are obviously some good supplementary species. Assuming moss isn't the keystone species itself, which I am not averse to. I do really like moss. It's kind of an interesting little plant, isn't it? Anyway, so obviously you have your mosses, and then sort of, okay, what flowers would exist? And do plants in this area flower at all? But if they do, how abundant are they? Are they as part of a bush, or are they part of just like a singular, right out of the ground sort of thing? And then what do they attract? Obviously little insects, pollinators perhaps, because obviously why else would you have a flower? And then, so then, insects, what do they eat? Likely nectar. What eats them? Maybe a type of bird takes advantage of this abundant source of insects, right? Due to its small, fast nature, it can pluck these pollinators right out of the sky, and due to its small, fast nature, it is relatively safe from most predators, outside of, say, a hawk that flies above their line of sight and then dives down very quickly and silently to catch it in their grip. And then we move on from there and there and there. Literally, here's the idea. You get a fistful of species, plant and animal. This is your starting hand. You will then play this card, and then you will immediately make up a counter. And then you will play the counter card. And then you will immediately make up a counter, and you will do that as many times as you are satisfied. And that is how you make an ecosystem. That is how I make an ecosystem. Sometimes animals won't have a counter. Velvet worms of the deep sea. They live in and around hydrothermal vents with nigh unbreakable shells, feasting upon the primordial sludge that oozes from the Earth's pores. They live for hundreds of years. They sit there immobile, eating, filter feeding, all sorts of raw nutrient paste. Due to their incredibly thick armor plating and the boiling, actually fucking boiling temperatures around the hydrothermal vents, nothing challenges them because it's pointless. That is a card with no counter. Occasionally, this will happen, right? Um, the best answer is usually just amounts of poison, just great amounts of poison, or being a fucking mustelid, whatever, like a fucking honey badger, just like being a fucking honey badger. By the way, if you're getting attacked by a honey badger, don't punch it or kick it or claw it because of its loose, thick skin, then it will just shrug off. You grab the motherfucker and you throw it in the air because it doesn't like that, and when it lands, it hurts. And if it doesn't run away and instead tries to attack you again, you grab the motherfucker and you throw it in the air. And you do that as many times as it takes for it to fuck off. This is your survival training for honey badgers. If it's running at you and it gets at you, pick it up and throw it in the air. This works for most creatures that you can pick up and throw in the air. They don't like it when that happens. What's another like untouchable animal? Like a leopard or a jaguar. Those freaks. So jaguars are very adept swimmers, powerful wrestlers that will bring most things down. And I'm pretty sure they, alongside leopards, drag their carcasses up trees to avoid kill stealing, alongside being very aware animals in the first place. With some thick fur to shrug off good slashing hits, powerful muscles to wrestle things. Their only contestation is gators and other crocodiles, caimans and the like. Because what can't they take down, let's be real? They're nigh untouchable in their environments. That's why gators are my favorite animal, as well as jaguars. Is it jaguars or am I getting confused? It's jaguars, right? Because now I'm second guessing myself. So cheetahs are the fast ones, leopards. Okay, yeah, it's jaguars. They're cool as fuck animals. I don't think they're a keystone species, though. I just didn't know where else to put it. Um, Back to the main point. These are like the plants that will hinge upon the basis of your ecosystem. That will, like, if you have this in some sort of fantasy world, that will likely end up being the primary source of farmed food, or at least one of the first, right? You know, think of maize. Maize, if you're pronouncing it with an accent, i.e., correctly. Or think of, I don't know, potatoes, onions, tomatoes, things like that. Good sources of dense calories that spawn up easily. Otters are good keystone species because they keep the population of like clams and shit in check, right? And I think they also want to keep clean habitats, so they kind of work with demucking rivers and shit to prevent them from um I forget the word. Not stratifying. It's the natural process of bodies of water becoming more swampy or boggy or fen-like or swamp, bog, fen, or wetlanding. What is that natural process called? Might be wrong on otters doing that, but I'm pretty sure they do. And if not, you can just take that and make it part of your animal. Who gives a shit? So let's move on to plants. I like plants a lot. This helps that I am Mexican. Haha, I can make the joke. You can't. Unless you're Mexican, then you can go ahead and make the joke. Leave in comments if you too are Mexican. The correct Spanish. Anyway, tap my wrist, stretch my back, can feel myself with poor posture. I must consciously correct it. And stretch my back. Damn, that was nice. Oh, something popped in my shoulders though. That wasn't so nice. So, plants. If you are weak and narrow-minded, you may be thinking to yourself, plants aren't interesting. I think you. Oh, I was about to say slur. I think you're weak. Let's just settle with that. And lame. Plants is bitchin', quite frankly. My favorite plant is a pitcher plant. The way they hunt, air quotes hunt, is incredibly interesting to me. The idea that they just passively attract insects to fall within them and dissolve away is quite an interesting one. That's fun. But that's not what I'm here to focus on specifically. How do you make your plants interesting? Well, either by giving them some sort of interesting, unique characteristic, just giving them attention at all, and giving them realistic plant-like qualities because real-life plants are genuinely fucking abhorrent, the shit they do. Wow, they're so, like, diverse and interesting. Not even a joke. Talk to a botanist, like, through email, they'll love it. Hmm, I should try that. Um, but and then we'll talk later on about aquatic versus terrestrial because there's a lot to say on that divide. But plants are absolutely something that should not be skimped out on, especially in fantasy stories where you have literally anything you can want to fucking do with plants. Because you have the wonderful hand wavy shit of it's magic plants, man. I gives a shit. My ribs, my sweet baby backs, as in my real life ribs. Hold on, I need to give a shit. Hold on, I need to take what we in the business refer to as a sip of water. Oh, it's in Spanish. Fuck. Sorry, I was. So I am into the fanfic scene. I've made that. Fuck. I'm into the fanfic scene. I made that aware. I was looking for a new fix. This one was in Spanish. Now, you may be thinking, you just mentioned you're Mexican, but you can't read Spanish? I can. It's just a little confusing sometimes. I'm a little stupid. By a little, quite frankly, I mean I'm retarded. But I let myself get distracted again. I will keep on the search. I multitask while I do these. Occasionally I'm reading a fic or sometimes working on my own stuff, fanfic or like real writing projects. By the way, I fully believe fanfic is a real writing project. You're putting yourself out there. You're putting genuine care and writing effort into the thing you're writing. It's just not original, but not everything needs to be. So I forgot what I was saying. Thankfully, it's highlighted. I tapped my temple. I couldn't see it. So plants. What do I want you to focus on when I talk about plants? Well, first of all, who are you to assume that I want you to focus on shit? Second of all, well, I'd love for you to focus on carnivorous plants, and I don't mean large ones. I mean still ones able to eat a very small rodent at very most, but predominantly just bugs. Because carnivorous plants are the most interesting kind of plants to me, just because that's such a unique and strange development to have, even aquatically. What are they called? They're called bladderworts. There's even aquatic ones. I don't care about balatro for stock trading. I already don't care about regular balatro. I'm fucked up in the crib playing balala. If you get that reference, you're a fucking loser. Anyway, fucked up in the crib playing balala. Focus on how do these plants compete with each other. Don't focus on how they avoid getting eaten by by herbivores. Focus on how plants compete with each other. There are parasitic plants. There are cooperative, air quotes, plants. There are ones that have a very vulnerable start to their life, but once they get going, you can't stop them, i.e., trees. There are ones that just exist solely through I fuck as hard as possible, in regards for a plant. And that's my thing. Oh, well, now I see why it might be in Spanish, because you now. Are they all in Spanish? They're all in Spanish. I was like, why are they recommending me just Spanish stuff? Well, that's because it says right there. P.S. They're in Spanish. I should have seen that at the start. I'm stupid. I'll check later. I'll see if I like them enough to read between the gaps. The reason I don't like reading Spanish chicks is because they come from different places than me, so they use different colloquial terms than me. So it's confusing. Um, so the most important thing for a plant to do is be able to outcompete its fellow plants. That is genuinely the most important thing they can do. That is why flowers are so fragrant and vibrant, is because to stand out to other flowers. That's why, famous at this point, that peppers develop capsaicin because birds are not affected, but mammals are. The idea is that they spread their seeds wider. That's why plants develop fruiting. That's why plants develop became cereals. I believe that part's true. I don't know why plants became like root vegetables. I don't get that, but I don't have to. Leafy greens, etc. You know how this stuff sort of goes. So, but that's not really for the animal. That is kind of just to be with, ward off against each other. How do you, on top of that, like what are their leaf shapes like? Do they branch out wide or do they branch out tall? This says a lot about both the environment around them and the plants around them. If they branch out wide, there's a lot of flat open, not necessarily flat, there's a lot of open space that they can take advantage of that other plants wouldn't be able to. If they grow tall, there's a lot of competition in one compact area. So, how does the canopy filtering the sunlight affect the ground coverage? There's likely less as a result, or is there? Have they developed a lesser need for sunlight? Have they become carnivorous as a result of this, relying more on what they can catch rather than what they can filter through? Are they instead, like the ground covering plants, developing really, really wide leaves as a result? In fact, is that something they do? Do plants in this area develop wide leaves in an attempt to smother other plants to prevent them from stealing their nutrients and water? A real thing plants do. Berry bushes fight with each other all the time. They try to fucking kill each other. Vicious shit, especially for herbs too. Herbs are fucking evil, evil fucking herbs. Take another sip of water. Baller. Bangarang. This one? Hold on, let me check my nipples. There we go. Remember to stretch, move your limbs, drink water, eat healthily. I had dinner. What's your excuse? You should feel threatened by that. My ops should fear me. Getting bigger and stronger every day. I'm eating my veggies. Really, I've been eating a lot more carrots than usual. Oh man, do we have broccoli? Fuck, I'll make some stuff with broccoli. I fucking love broccoli. Um, I probably a lot more to say with plants, but I got distracted again. So let's move on to adaptations and why, which I've kind of already been covering through the facet of just rambling on about shit. But why do they develop specific adaptations? I already mentioned a few times what could spur them to develop adaptations. This is really just more of like looking at your hand and developing counters for your own cards. That is a technique I do, by the way. I sort of like act like it's a small card game I'm playing against myself. It really helps. I recommend it if you're autistic like I am. In the way I am, of course. Not you are also autistic. No, you have to be my flavor of autism. Otherwise, we have wrong. You have the wrong autism. I have the right one. Much like how I speak the correct Spanish, you speak the wrong Spanish. Fuck vosotros. Fuck that vosotros shit. Nobody says that. Nobody even says formal shit. Not even if you're talking to your boss. Might just be where I live, though. Adaptations and why. Usually, it's to exploit a hitherto untapped food system in comparison to its contemporaries, or to compete with members of its own species. We're all well aware of Triceratops horns, of Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus thagomisers, of Para, fuck it, Paracephalosaurus? Let me look that up. I was doing so well. Is it Pachy? Am I thinking of Pachycephalosaurus? Yeah, okay. I got it confused with Parasaurolophus, that's why. And the Pachycephalosaurus, that if you got confused like I did, it's the one with the armored head that it rams into stuff. Fun fact: the Triceratops's horns, the Pachycephalosaurus's armored skull, the Ankylo and Stegosaurus's thagomisers, they were all developed for ritualized combat. What is ritualized combat? I assumed they were foolish dinosaurs and did not have any ideas on religion or cultism. First of all, you don't know that. Second of all, ritualized combat just means such as like fighting for dominance. When like how elephants kind of like fight for mates. Same with like hippos and rhinos. They would do that. That is what ritualized combat is. We know this from studying these sort of gouge marks on fossils we discover. And with testing, i.e., math, and a lot of analysis, we have come to the conclusion that it is explicitly from members of their own species and what is presumed to now be like dominance fighting for, say, like territory or mates. And we know like Triceratops crests have shown signs of piercing damage from Triceratops horns. Pachycephalosaurus skulls have shown signs of chipping from Pachycephalosaurus skulls, thagomisers to their equivalent creatures. It was designed first and foremost to compete with its own kin, and then also happened to be a defensive token. This is still present to this day. Deer and stags have horns to challenge other males for mates or space or to mark their territory. Though that just comes as a result of needing to, like chip away and break your horns and stuff. It also happens to be really good for ramming into predators and kind of keeping them at bay a little bit. And the same goes for moose. Same goes for goats. It is primarily to charge the fuck out of your fellow goat for daring to get close to your patch of fucking moss. It's also pretty good at knocking a mountain lion off of its footing. A This is less true for predators, but still kind of stands because they also do like the whole fight for dominance thing. Less, a lot less so than herbivores because herbivores are fucked up and evil and twisted and not right in the head. But still, uh, another sip of water. But some other adaptations you can consider are camouflage. It's the pretty basic one. And then mimicry, one of my favorites. Mimicking another more dangerous species for your own safety. There's that one gross ass caterpillar that mimics like a snake. There are snakes that mimic the patterning on other snakes. There is the mimic octopus that explicitly mimics. Damn. That mimics sea serpents and another creature I don't remember. It mimics its patterns to look more threatening than it is. Speaking of octopi, octopodes. I don't know, fucking one of them. I got a friend who's a pedant about it. Um, their color change and their skin change. I don't think it's called that. Texture shifting, whatever, are really good things to draw off of. Counter shading is my favorite kind of camouflage. Counter shading is looking different above and below. Sharks do this. From below, their shading looks like nothing. From the top, their shading looks like the water. If you're looking up, they kind of blend into the sky above you with the light filtering down. If you're looking up from up top, they blend in with the water. The best kinds of counter shading, interestingly enough, specifically at night, are bioluminescent to hide your shadow against the moon filtering down. And also during the day, you can be a little bioluminescent to kind of kill your shadow. It's pretty interesting. And then everyone knows like fish glimmer because when they school, it's distracting and confusing the predators who are gonna, chase and hit at nothing, or maybe get a fish. Right? We all know like how aquatics work. On land, it's like you do not get bioluminescent creatures that are not tiny like fireflies. There's also phosphorescence, which is different than bioluminescence. Bioluminescence, they create it themselves. Phosphorescent, they charge up and blast it out, i.e., they have chromatophores that absorb the sunlight and then release it later on to make a light that is kind of bastardized from the sun. But why do they get those adaptations? Fireflies get it so they can communicate over long distances, and then there's a kind of. Okay, so was it a spider? There was. I remember learning about this sort of fucking evil twisted bug. I think it was a spider. It captures a male firefly. It does something weird with like venom and stuff, and it makes its hormones go through sex change, kinda. So like it now flashes in the pattern of a female butterfly, a female firefly, to attract more fireflies to get in the web and then it can eat. Something like that. Something like that. I don't remember. It was really weird. I thought it was really interesting though. That's a unique adaptation. Again, to exploit a previously unexploited food source. Comparatively speaking, again, insects are fucking ruthless as well. But another adaptation, web spinning, and I like doing it for like trapdoor spiders, like laying an ambush. Like it's the sort of threads that I feel to know where you are idea. I really like that. It's very interesting to me. Anyway, what was I saying? Adaptations, right? Why do they develop these adaptations? Usually, again, to exploit food sources, compete with rivals. In this, but for fireflies, communication, camouflage, disguising oneself, right? Or in the opposite direction, which is the word I don't remember. Poisonous creatures do this. They have bright colors to explicitly tell the predator, "Hey, look at me. I'm not hiding. You want to fuck with this?" No, you don't. That idea, which is also really interesting. It has a name that I forgot. You know what I'm talking about. Poisonous dart frogs are brightly colored for a reason. It's a warning, hey, don't touch. Porcupine's quills are fucking amazing, and I think they're one of the most unique adaptations ever put to creatures. Hedgehogs, on the other hand, are kind of wimpy and lame, especially by comparison. Ugh, I'm nauseous. I'm fighting it though, don't worry, I'm not gonna puke on camera. Or microphone, I guess. I'm powerful. I flexed, you couldn't see. Neither could I have no muscle mass. Fully grown adult here. Weighs less than 100 pounds. Isn't that not good? I'm pretty sure that's not good. I'm gonna be real, I don't know how body mass and stuff works. I don't know how much people need to eat. Anyway, you can figure out the rest from here. So, intra-system interactions. Intra-system means within this ecosystem. The idea is I want you to focus on it's a food web, not a food chain. Remember how I mentioned that, say, the apex predator in this area is a badger because the main prey creature is a mole, even though I'm pretty sure moles eat worms more than they eat anything else. But in this case, I guess it's an herbivorous mole. Well, they can't subsist off of one food source alone now, can they? What else are they going to eat? They could eat a sort of like lemming creature that burrows. They could eat a meerkat-like creature, or like try to eat a meerkat-like creature, because meerkats are one of the most perceptive and communicative animals in the animal kingdom, and they're very interesting for that reason, right? Um, how aggressive are plants with one another, right? Plants are racist. You can look that up. That's probably true. This bird that eats that other bird that eats the insects, what other things does it eat? Probably will also try to eat the voles when they can see them, yeah? Sorry, I was getting water. And this bird that eats pollinators, what else would it try to go for? Probably cereals, right? Probably like barley that grows around, or like whatever your equivalent to barley is, wild buckwheat or some shit, yeah. Everything eats more than one thing. Key reminder to put right here. Obligate herbivory does not exist. Obligate carnivory does not exist. It's more so for herbivores than it is for carnivores. Carnivores must occasionally eat plant matter. It's good for their gut biome, it's good for their health, it's necessary for their health. That's why your dog eats grass and clovers and stuff. That's why it's fine to feed him a little bit of broccoli as a treat. I miss you, Lady. That was my dog's name. Her name was Lady. She was the cutest little thing. She lived a good 13 years, and I love her. She was a good dog. I miss her still. Anyway. Obligate carnivory does not exist for the reasons mentioned already. Obligate herbivory exists even less. You've already seen the images of cows eating snakes. Same with deer. You've heard of hippos eating each other. That extends to every herbivore. They will all take the chance to eat meat. They in fact need to. It's high in important proteins and sorts of little globules that they want to consume. Usually it'll manifest itself in eating bugs, but they're not above eating their own, especially young, and they're also not above just like scavenging a little bit. Every rabbit will tear the fuck out of a dead bird. Every deer will crunch down on a snake. Cows will stomp snakes to death to eat them, right? There is no obligate herbivory, only shades of it. Never turn your back on a cow. It's not have your best interest at heart. But they're very cute. I will still eat a steak in a heartbeat. So the point I'm trying to make here is this food web is vast and uncontested. Don't narrow it down, you only hurt your ecosystem. Let us now quickly address impact by sentience in your world because it interests me less than continuing with the other points. So, impact on sentience people. This is predominantly through food and animal husbandry. You can literally just look at prehistory, Mesopotamia, look at the Egyptians, look at the Aztecs, look at indigenous tribes. Oh, I almost remembered the fucking New Zealand tribe. The Maori tribes, finally remembered them from that time I mentioned them prior with, I mentioned their unique knife shape. Um, because they all have, Native American tribes I mentioned before, the three sisters, that being gourds, beans, and maize. They understood agriculture to a pretty good degree, right? They didn't know what goes in it specifically, but they understood how to take care of the land and get as much from harvest as they can, things of that nature. So, impact on sentience people, usage by sentience people, this will predominantly end up manifesting itself through means of food. What? Please God, watch my food video. It's a banger. It's in the bangers playlist. Though this can also manifest itself in through natural remedies. Honey is a natural remedy. It's great for burn wounds and minor abrasions. You can take raw honey and you can slather it on the wounds. I don't know how true this is anymore, given that a bunch of the honey you can buy on shelves is, processed in some ways. But honey is great for convincing and coaxing the cells to begin the regenerative processes. And it's also very high in, keeping you up. Good in calories, good with sugar, and things like that. I think proteins as well. Honey is a great source of lots of things, and is a natural remedy. Aloe vera, or toothgrass, the less can be said about this, though it is also a natural remedy. You already know it can heal you. You already know it's good for your skin, good against sunburns, things like that, and you can eat it, and it's not bad for you neither. Willow bark is a natural painkiller. To a lesser degree, you tea it and then drink it. It's good for headaches. Raspberry leaves are high in iron, which is made into a tea great for period cramps because naturally you lost a lot of iron through the blood loss. And then to make it palatable, you can put raspberries in it. Um, I'm drawing blanks on some of the other natural remedies that I know. I had a brief stint where I was interested in things that weren't crystals. I want to clarify that right now. But though it will manifest itself primarily through food and animal husbandry, it is not to be overlooked the value of natural remedies by humanity for as long as you've been able to understand them. The birth of medicine. Alongside cordage, alongside lumber, and alongside just being pretty, because we like pretty things. To break them down further would require me retouching on the food video I did, and I really want you to watch that one. It is my magnum opus, next to my SCP videos. Read 8000, you'll cry. I genuinely hope it's so good. It's so good. I reread it today. It made me cry. It's so good. So I'm in good spirits, despite having a meltdown a few days ago. But I read 8000. I'm all fine now. Yay! So your different biomes. Keep in mind the vast differences within them, even within ones that are similar. Swamps and bogs are very different. Um, fen is alkaline, wetland. Swamp is woody, a wetland is sparse. A fen is alkaline, and a bog is toxic. Not toxic, acidic? Think I got that right. You may paint them with the simple brush of swamp nasty bugs, but keep in mind very different and unique. Fen is more alkaline but has lower pH. Marsh frequently, or that's the word I keep blanking on. Marsh frequently or continually inundated with water, soft-stemmed vegetation. Bog is acidic. That's what I get confused on. Look up the wetland classification and why, as it is genuinely kind of shockingly in depth. So, we all know the obvious stuff. A bay has less water than a desert, though how much is drinkable is probably the same if we're going to be real. Even within the biome, your plant life can vastly differentiate. Easiest, what's the word I'm looking for? The easiest comparison to draw your eyes to is a desert and its oasis, because it's one you simply know. But even a mountain can have a diverse array of plant life. The peak compared to the valley. The valley is more likely to have such things such as lush underbrush, clovers, flowers, the like, whereas the mountain top is more likely to have sparse, woody brush, ferns, moss, maybe a tree, or like a kind of tree. And then along the way is literally primarily just lichen and algae. Well, I guess not algae unless it's by the coast and it gets a nice sea fog. More likely to end up being moss. Um, Even within the same biome, the plant life you get can be vastly different. Same with the creatures that call it their home. So it's also important to pick where your story is going to be set, or focus on what you want to focus on for your world building, as that will give you a diverse array to work with. A crab is very unlikely to be found on a mountain. However, by the coast, sure, that's likely. A wolf is very unlikely to be found on the coast, but more rocky areas, more forested areas, I'll give you that. An elephant will not be found in the mountains. In a savanna, it'll be found there. Big cats want verticality or plains they can stalk in. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Semi-aquatic or fully aquatic creatures, it's very obvious, etc. Play to their strengths. Don't, rule of thumb, don't throw in a creature that does not fit there with some weird adaptation to make it seem like uber cool and really powerful, as you can just accomplish something with better qualities by just playing to their strengths. You don't need to have a galloping gator to make your planes interesting when you could instead just have like some sort of persistent, not persistence, that's a human thing, but I mean, you can have it be persistent if you like. To just have a creature adapted for running that doesn't look like a gator because it'll bring your audience out of it. Where is my water? Let me just take another sip very quickly, if you don't mind. That's nice. My throat is sore. We only have a few more points though. So please play to the different biomes' strengths. Um, Even the insects you will get in these biomes are vastly different. Look into insects. What is it called? It's called telescopic generations. Look that up. It's fucking disgusting. So have fun with that. So let's tackle my favorite that I probably don't have the energy for at this point. Oh, I should have done that earlier. Aquatic versus terrestrial. Now, I am very biased towards aquatic. That being said, I still would prefer to be a terrestrial herbivore. Like put in the comments whether or not you'd be a terrestrial animal or an aquatic animal, what your body plan would be, your ideas, stuff like that. I think it's fun to get people's answers. Most people I ask say aquatic. I don't know why. I do know why. It's just because they think the idea of like the aquatic body plan is a lot more freeing because you kind of do whatever the fuck you want. The pressures put onto them by being aquatic versus terrestrial are vastly different. Pretty obvious. Lack of easily abundant air. Also, very important to make note of right now. Aquatic biomes are where the breathable oxygen in your world will come from. Does not come from forests. It comes from phytoplankton. It comes from algae. It comes from the sludge and seaweed and shit like that. And like bulrushes, I guess, if you're by a swampy area, I guess they'll also be helping and stuff. but that is where your oxygen will come from. Algal blooms will be great for a nice spike until they start decomposing en masse and killing all the oxygen that way because the bacteria goes crazy. Look into how oxygen is disseminated, or what is actually the word? Osmosis through the world, because you all, I am not part of you, you all do not give plankton enough credit for providing you the air you breathe. Low tier god was wrong. I was thinking like touch kids or something, or texted kids or something, I don't know. Low tier god brags about Twitch partnership as if ban won't send it back to low income housing. You guys seen that fucking video? That's awesome. That's an awesome video. Just from the thumbnails alone and titles. That guy's got some beef. I love it. I don't really give a shit about him. He's kind of just a man child and he's shit at Tekken. Was it Tekken or Street? Oh, a Street Fighter? Ah, fucking one of them. I don't give a shit. Anyway, so the pressures put upon aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems are like vastly different, as is obvious, of course. But consider the following. Name me an herbivore in the ocean. Could you do it? I believe they're called the sea sheep. They're a kind of sea slug. What they do is they eat algae, phytoplankton, things like that. And what they will do. No, phytoplankton are animals. No, that's zooplankton. Sorry, I was wrong. Um, what they will do, these leaf sheep, is they will eat the algae, phytoplankton, etc., diatoms, which are the largest single-celled organism, I believe, and they will steal their chloroplasts. With their translucent skin close to the surface, they will then absorb the sunlight and use the chloroplast to work for them, producing glucose as a kind of passive sort of um, food generation. A very interesting and unique trait that is not seen on land as far as I've been made aware. But outside of the little leaf sheep, I genuinely could not, if I tried, and I'm trying right now, I'm actually really, really thinking, could not name you a, what the fuck was I going to say? A herbivore. Sea anemones, filter feed. They eat starfish. They can even eat birds if they try. They eat crabs and small fish. Sea cucumbers, they are also, as far as, they're filter feeders. Starfish, predators. Sponges, also filter feeders. They just partner up with, what are they called? Algae and other sorts of phytoplankton to also be able to photosynthesize. Fun fact, a lot of the things down there are alive, they're animals. Um, Clams, filter feeders, so they eat. Um, so they making them predators. If a whale's a predator, a clam is too. Scallops, filter feeders. Mussels, filter feeders. Barnacles, filter feeders. Parasites too, technically, but most fish, predators. Genuinely cannot name you another herbivore in the sea. Compare that to land. Most things are herbivores. So that is one thing that you might not have noticed about the disparity between aquatic and terrestrial life forms or ecosystems. An important distinction to make because it colors the idea I'm going to tell you right now. There is no deadlier place on Earth than the fucking ocean. Africa can come close, but it will not overtake the ocean. Ever. To live in the ocean is to have weird ass fucking adaptations that nobody else will have, as much as you can manage it. Parrotfish's beaks are designed to crack open coral to like eat them and digest them. That nobody else can really do that in the ocean. Sea anemones have weird ass stinging nadospores. Is that how you say that? I don't know. Stinging cells to ward away predators with a little poison, and then if they die, eat them. The only exception being clownfish, who have a mucosal lining designed to avoid that, but the mucosal lining is very finicky and not the most resilient to being touched, so they have to spend a lot of time carefully maintaining their mucosal lining, and if damaged, will lead to their death. Uh, what was I saying? Developing armor, clams, right? Although I think clams are not the greatest example uh, compared to like a nautilus, because nautili can move, things like that. Turtles, even though they're not water breathing, they are aquatic creatures. Crocodiles are aquatic creatures. I think the official term is semi-aquatic, but fuck that. In my heart they're aquatic. What am I waffling about? Quite frankly, I'm telling you that do not approach an aquatic environment like a terrestrial one. You will be sorely disappointed. I.e., the reader will be sorely disappointed because they are nowhere. Okay, of course they're alike, but they're more different than I think they're alike. If you're going to start world building on your sea, world build the fuck out of that bitch. Start from the top, work your way down to that bottom. Look into deep sea creatures. They're beautiful, disgusting, horrible beasts, and I love them. Did you know an anglerfish is 7 feet? That's right, an anglerfish could eat you. Did you know the anglerfish thinking of are only female? Because did you know the males are like the size of your thumb, and they attach themselves to the females as kind of a parasite creature to feed off of the nutrition they get, and in return they give them, the sperm cells to then make offspring, and are not the most demanding of parasites. Did you know that? Now you do. Did you know there is I believe they're called the vampire squid? Was it the vampire squid or the vampire octopus? Either way, they have the tentacles, the tips of the tentacles glow, specifically just the tips, in order to use that to attract the predator's attention and then contort their limbs in weird, odd shapes to obscure their silhouette even more. Did you know there is a sort of krill deep down that has bioluminescent vomit that it spits out to distract predators and then quickly make its escape? Did you know the barrel eye fish? Did you know? Because that thing's weird. There's an image in my head, I can't describe it, it's gross looking. Do yourself a favor, look into the deep sea creatures. Um, if you don't like weird looking animals, maybe don't. But I guarantee you won't regret learning about them. They are so interesting and probably the most unique things I've ever seen in my life. Take inspiration from them, and then you can even put shit like that onto land if you want like a fantasy monster. And I fully mean that I've done it before myself. I must admit to it. I like viperfish. They're cool. It's not in my campaign if my players are listening, it's just I've done it before. But genuinely consider when you're making a terrestrial versus you're making an aquatic environment that they should be incredibly vastly different. And this even goes for semi-aquatic environments such as wetlands, such as bays, because the pressures they put on their animals and plants are very demanding in comparison to terrestrial environments, which are a lot more relaxed. The exception is island environments because of island tameness, but you already know all about that. I hope. To finish this off, we're going to talk producers in the water versus producers on land. Not the most exciting of topics, I know, but it is actually very important. As mentioned before, the oxygen you breathe comes from plankton. It does not come from trees. Why is this important? The number of plankton vastly outnumbers, like, I believe this is true, vastly outnumbers trees and shit like that. Probably even combine a bunch of other things in that metric. There's so many of them. Producers on land are a lot more. I don't know. How do I put this? I know I had a point when I wrote this down. I guess I'll focus on water a bit more. So, first of all, the water has the largest single-celled organism around. It's called a diatom. It is a large single-celled plant. Protista, one of those. Finish up the drugs in my water. It is just this big little chloroplast tablet that you can. Yummy plants. But algae, and phytoplankton make up the bulk of the water. They are not the bulk of the targets because, again, there's like no fucking herbivores in the sea. This is because most things just filter feed for them passively, but because of zooplankton. Okay, no, it is phytoplankton, the zooplankton, filter feeders eat the zooplankton. That's how it goes, I believe. So, the basis of life in your world is fucking microscopic. And then this feeds the ocean in incredible ways. Because, fun fact, ocean animals are tiny, 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 tiny little things when they start off. Look up tiny, look up the larval stages of crabs. Fun fact, crabs eat their own eggs all the time, just because the oceans give a fuck about shit. But that's a side tangent that I will not get into because I don't want to spend too long talking. My throat is already very sore as is. What was I saying? Fuck, what was I saying? What was the point? In the ocean, life starts as tiny, 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 tiny little things that exist in the water column as plankton. Most plankton grows up to be something else if it isn't just zooplankton. And that is where, kind of interesting, isn't it? They start off eating the plants because obligate carnivory does not exist. Once they're big enough, they'll start eating each other in the larval stage and then grow big enough past that point. Point I'm making here is the producers in the water don't really. Okay, of course they matter. Of course they very much do matter. Believe me, I cannot understate how much they matter. In the big picture, i.e., us sized, they really couldn't matter to us unless we're going the cover story for Salient Green, and we're going to compress phytoplankton into bars for nutrition. But that will not happen because Soylent Green is people. Salient Green is people. Fucking Soylent Green. Sorry for spoiling that story, but you know Salient Green is people. You just don't know where it comes from. I think that comes from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but I might be very, very, very much wrong. Salient Green is people. That's where the corpse starch comes from in Warhammer lore. It's because GW took that because it was a fun idea. Anyway, but that's producers on land, where things will regularly consume producers, and entirely, herbivores and all that. And on land, they're a lot more varied. The ocean did not give them the luxury. Our variance is seagrass and algae. And then what? Turtles eat that, but even still, turtles will happily eat fish and fucking crabs and jellyfish and stuff. Point I am making is this. If producers are the heart of your ecosystem, it is just more proof that the water and the land could not be further separated. Producers on water, practically nothing. Producers on land have a lot more room to work with. This does not mean you should discount aquatic producers immediately. It's just that their variance is a lot less interesting. It's just longer stalks or squatter stalks or more strong roots or more lengthy roots and things like that. If you want a world lush, and I don't mean lush as in drunkard, like the slang, if you want a lush world, keep it terrestrial. If you want the biggest thunderdome known to man, have a very aquatic planet. I think that's all I have for you tonight. I hope you got something good out of this, or at least were entertained by this. I will see you whenever my next video is, which will probably end up being soon. Thank you for watching. I appreciate y'all. See ya.